I'm Andrea Giles, and you're listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, episode number 59, Grief. Hello, and welcome to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, where courageous women learn not only to heal from their spouse's betrayal, but to become the boldest, truest, most decisive, and confident versions of themselves ever. If you know there's more for you than the life you're currently living, but don't quite know how to get there, you are in the right place. Stick around to learn how to create a life that will knock your own socks off. Is it possible? It is, and I'm here to show you how. I'm your host, Andrea Giles. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 59. Today, we're going to be talking about grief. I'm going to be sharing with you some different examples and some ways to identify if something that you're experiencing is in fact grief or not, if it's something else, how to move through it, all kinds of things about grief. Before I dive into that, I want to let you know something kind of exciting. So I have decided to hire somebody who is an amazing coach that I've known for quite a while to fill in for me while I am on maternity leave. So I am still signing clients. I'm still working with people. And when the time comes that I have my baby, they can continue on with her. And she's amazing, amazing. I've been coached by her. I've seen her coach other people. And she's a really great intuitive coach, knows all the things she needs to know to be effective, and has experience with all of this as well. And so she also speaks from experience. So just wanted to throw that out there, that for a while, when you decide to work with me, you get two coaches for the price of one, which is pretty fun. She really is awesome. And I think that it can be so much fun to experience different people's styles of coaching. So anyway, her name is Mickey. She is wonderful. And I've been excited to share that. So I just have thought about how I can best support my clients while I'm away. And I thought it's time for me to hire a coach to work with my clients while I can't be there. So I know you'll love her. She's amazing. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start talking to you about grief. I want to start with a little story. So if you follow me on social media at all, I shared this recently. I was thinking about this and shared it. And what I shared is a picture of my daughter when she was 5 years old, about 2 weeks after her dad passed away. And about 2 weeks after he died, she said to me, "Mom, I want to go see where Dad died." And so I left all my other kids at home, and I took my little girl and took her to the tree where his car crashed and where he died. And I took some pictures of it, and I'm really glad I did. Even though in the moment, for me, it was a painful moment to witness my daughter soaking it in. She just stood there for the longest time, just thinking. And she was only 5 years old, but she wanted to see. And I let her stay there for as long as she wanted. She was just silent. So I'm going to come back to this, okay? I'm going to come back to why this example of dealing with grief was healthy and important, okay? I'll touch on that later. But I wanted to say that part of the reason why I'm covering this today is because I've told my listeners, you, my wonderful listeners, to please reach out if there are things in specific that you want me to touch on, that you want more help with. And one that I've been hearing about is grief. And so I decided to do a whole episode about grief. So grief is a pretty universal emotion. If we form attachments to anything, it is normal to grieve a loss. It is not just like when somebody dies or, major things like that. There are lots of different things that we can experience grief around, okay? Sometimes it is kind of a collective grief, and sometimes it's very personal and individual. So for example, we recently came upon the 20-year anniversary of the attack on the trade centers, 9/11. And that was a collective grief that many, many people shared. And we experienced grief and fear and all kinds of different emotions collectively. And Oftentimes with grief, it is very personal. It's something that only you experience that other people might not even know that you're going through, which can make it tricky sometimes, right? Even if something changes, like just a change, like let's say like a kid moves out. That's a recent thing for me, right? I had another kid leave the nest. It can bring up intense feelings of loss and grief. Okay, there's many opportunities in life where we can feel grief. We can grieve when our kid starts school in kindergarten because it means that it's the end of this space and time when they were not in school. And we can have some thoughts and feelings and emotions about that, right? In infidelity, whether you choose to stay married or not, grief is something that most likely is coming along whatever direction you go. And I'm going to be talking about that. So, even though everyone listening to this, whether you have experienced infidelity or not, all of you have experienced grief. It is a universal thing. But today, because most of my listeners, most of you here have experienced some kind of betrayal of trust in your marriage, that's the area I'm going to cover is around marriages, around infidelity. That's where I'm going to focus today, okay? I'm going to give you examples of how it can show up in surprising ways, how it can sneak up on you, how it can be veiled as something else, and how to spot it, okay? I'm also going to touch on how grief can cross over into PTSD like symptoms and what to watch for there, okay? And I am just hearing myself recording this and I feel so out of breath. And I have not done anything that would require me to be out of breath except for growing this baby that is taking up more and more space in my body and making it harder to breathe. So bear with me. Bear with me. I'm on the final stretch now. I have about 13 weeks left and my body's, it's feeling it. Anyway, okay. So my hope in this episode, my desire is that you will have a deeper understanding of where you are in relation to grief and have some solid tools to help you move through it. Okay. I want you to be able to identify where you are and I want to help you know what to do next. Okay. If you get through this episode and you have both of those things accomplished, check. That's what I'm going for you. Okay. So first, let's talk about stages of grief. I'm guessing most of you have probably heard of the Kubler-Ross stages of grief model. It's a pretty popular model. Now, there are some things about it that are very helpful, and there's some things about it that I just want you to know, okay? First of all, even though in the model, as it is put out, there's an order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's actually not that way at all, okay? Grief is very nonlinear. We can hop from 4 to 2 to 3 to 1 to 5 back to 1. It is not linear, okay? The other thing that I think is important to note is that the original model was made based on science around people who were dying, like people who had terminal illnesses and were dying, and it studied them. And it's been interesting because it has been kind of transmitted as a general model of grief for everybody, when in reality, that was not the initial way that it was even studied, okay? I still find it helpful. And the way that I'm teaching it today is actually adapted to infidelity. So the same 5 different stages, but it's adapted around infidelity by the Gottman Institute. They did something with this. If you've heard of the Gottman Institute, it's great. And yours truly. So I've added in some of my own thoughts, my own ideas around this as well. Okay. So stage number 1, denial. Okay. Denial. Denial is a stage of grief. Denial is a defense mechanism to self-protect, as it could be too overwhelming to feel it all at once. Okay. Our bodies don't want us to flood, don't want us to be so overwhelmed that we lose our ability to function. And so this piece of denial is a self-protection. It helps to minimize pain, okay? In this place of denial, we can know that there's something off and know that there's something wrong, but still kind of stay in the space of like, it will be set right. This is going to be okay. It's okay. In this space of denial, we might desire to ask a whole lot of questions in lots of ways to our partner because we can't believe that it's real. It's like, did I really see that? Like, no, it can't be. No, that can't be. And so we start poking holes. We start asking for more specifics like, wait, what? It just feels so unreal. It feels so unreal. So we ask lots of questions, want more information. And really, there's almost a little bit of a numbness in this space. Like, it's like we put up this protective wall so we don't have to feel it quite so intensely. Okay. Stage 2 is anger. In stage 2, you are piecing together information and it's becoming more real. You start to become mad that it happened, mad at a loss or a change of relationship, mad that you once saw your partner in this way and now suddenly they look very different. Now, with this, an interesting thing to note is that we can feel angry, but we're also afraid that if we show all of that anger, we might drive our partner away, which also feels threatening. So often what this anger looks like is actually suppressing the anger, and then it might erupt at different points as it sinks in. Looking back on my own situation when I was going through it, I definitely did that. I definitely kept it down, tried to keep calm and cool, and then everyone's boom, out would come some kind of flash of anger. So just know that that's normal, okay? Self-doubt can also surface here. We can feel anger and we can also experience self-doubt here and wonder what our role was. Self-doubt about our role, self-doubt about what we're seeing and how we helped contribute to it, things like that, okay? Stage 3, bargaining. This is an interesting one. This is where we go back in time. We ask what ifs, what if? So for example, if you saw one time something that just kind of seemed off on your spouse's phone and you just ignored it thinking, no, it's probably nothing. Bargaining is where we go and we're like, what if I would have just called it out then? What if I would have asked? Maybe none of this wouldn't have happened. Maybe if I would have gone with him to this thing instead of sent him on his own, this wouldn't have happened. Oftentimes in bargaining, we blame ourselves. We take a lot of the blame. As I was preparing this, I was thinking about my husband, and I know he wouldn't mind me sharing this, but I've mentioned before, his first wife had colon cancer for years, almost 7 years. She got diagnosed right around her 30th birthday, died on Valentine's Day, a month before her 37th birthday. And after several treatments, he took her to the Mayo Clinic, which is very well known for being like one of the best hospitals, clinics in the world, right? And by the time he took her there, they basically told him and her that there was not much they can do and that it should have been dealt with in different ways and on and on. And so one of the things that my husband grappled with was in this stage 3 of bargaining of what if I would have just taken her there first instead of messing with these other hospitals? And of course, it's not helpful, right? Because it doesn't change anything, but just know that it's a normal thing that we do, okay? The reason we do this is because we want to heal the pain quicker, and we are very logical. We're logical. We want a logical explanation for why this happened. And so we're looking for it, even if it means blaming ourselves, right? We're trying to intellectualize our feelings. Like, I feel this way, like we're trying to make it very math-like, right? Like, well, if I only would have done this, then I wouldn't feel this way. This wouldn't have happened. And like I said, we take a lot of blame on ourselves going through scenarios, okay? Another thing that happens here in stage 3, is that the hurt partner may try premature closure as a way to get out of pain. Close it on off. Like, I don't want to look at this anymore. I don't want to look at all the details. And so I'm just going to close it off and tell myself this nice little story so I don't actually have to feel it. Okay. Stage 4 is depression. In stage 4, you feel the full impact of losing the relationship that you thought you had. You are truly seeing it was not what you thought it was, and you're allowing yourself to feel. In this space, it can mess with your version of reality because you start to wonder what else is not real that you thought was real, right? I remember in this stage remembering some of the good things that happened in our marriage, some of the good memories, and he could be very thoughtful at times, and thinking about some of those thoughtful things that he did, thoughtful gestures, and going, was any of it real? Was anything real? Or was it in an attempt to keep me quiet? And that surely felt very depressing, right? And so in this stage, there can be a lot of confusion and deep, painful questions. How could he or she? Does he or she love me at all? What do I do? Will I always feel this way? What if I never move past this? How can I really move forward with him or her? How can I move forward with or without him or her? I should have been better in this way. Now, a warning I want to give here is it's very normal, but it can become a trap of sorts, okay? There can be a false safety in staying here. It can absolve you temporarily of leaning into tough conversations or really answering hard questions for yourself. It can keep you in kind of a victim or self-pity mode where you're like, well, I guess this is just what it is, and I'm just going to feel bad, and this is where I stay. And you are avoiding kind of moving past the stage, really rolling up your sleeves and moving forward, okay? It is normal to go to this place, 100% normal, but it can be dangerous and unhealthy to stay here for too long, okay? Stage number 5 is acceptance. Stage number 5 does not mean that there's like a permanent resolution, because guess what? Whether you're still married to the person or not, there are still interpersonal and emotional realities that can come up from day to day, things that come up that need to be dealt with in the moment. But it can feel transformational in that you can resolve in this space how you will move forward. You are answering the questions. I recognize how this happened. I see what happened. I see some things that I missed. I see where he thought this and this and this, why he chose this and this and this. And now I'm not saying that we're like absolving responsibility of our spouse. I'm not saying that we're just like, oh, I understand and it's not a big deal. That's not what I mean at all. It's more like we are looking as honestly as we can at the situation, looking at ourselves, looking at them. And in this space is where we are forgiving, whether we choose to stay or leave. If we are choosing to stay, this is where hope is renewed, like a renewed hope that you guys can build something better. This is where your future outlook changes for yourself and whether you stay married or not, okay? Acceptance means, like I said, telling the story in a way that feels the most truthful, the most honest, and giving you the ability to move forward, okay? And I know a while back I did a whole episode on acceptance that you can look for. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about PTSD. Okay, PTSD is when it goes a little bit deeper. And I am a coach, not a therapist, so I cannot diagnose or treat PTSD. But I do want you to know what to look for, okay? I want you to know, kind of to be familiar with some of the symptoms of PTSD. And this might be something that you could go talk to somebody who specializes in that, okay? I myself was diagnosed at one point with PTSD. So I have a lot of empathy and understanding for what PTSD feels like. It can feel very out of control, very scary. And over years, I have grown a lot and I rarely have PTSD symptoms. Every once in a while, they pop up, every once in a while, but I have a much better grip and understanding of how to work through them. Okay, so here are some of the things to look for. around PTSD. Okay. It says that the hurt partner often suffers from PTSD following an affair's recovery. According to doctors John and Julie Gutman, if the below symptoms persist, then the chances are that the hurt partner is experiencing PTSD. Okay. Number 1, recurrent recollections and intrusive visualizations, deja vu type things. Events, days, locations tend to trigger flashbacks of affair specifics. For example, recurring dates of when the hurt partner had found out about the affair trigger memories and related emotions that can induce flooding and panic attacks. Okay. Number 2, oscillating moods, confusion, irritability, and outbursts. As the hurt partner struggles between feelings of betrayal and acceptance, there are periods of emotional numbing followed by explosions. Number 3, intense emotions of anger, hurt, shame, grief, and frustration. These are ambivalent fears of anger, guilt, self-doubts that can overwhelm the hurt partner. Empathetic listening goes a long way in healing this. Number 4, hypervigilance and startling. Hurt partners can become startled and vigilant about mundane things like message notifications, phone rings, delay in replies, and may seem to make impossible demands. Compassion and assurance will help, including self-compassion. Number 5, avoidance, detachment, and seclusion. The overwhelming feelings appear challenging, and isolation may seem like the only option. The betraying partner often misunderstands it as distancing and tends to stay away. It may enhance the feelings of rejection in the hurt partner when what is needed is emotional support. Number 6, loss of focus and interest. The depression, symptoms of demotivation, loss of interest, lack of energy, irregular sleep, no appetite, low feelings, etc. can persist. And number 7, hopelessness about the future. As the world they know collapses, there may be hopelessness and helplessness about the relationship. Now, I want to point out that not everybody is going to develop PTSD. A lot of people will experience grief and depression, but many people will not have PTSD. Hurt partners may become obsessed with the affair's details. They might need help moving through these things, but it also is part of those earlier steps 1 through 5 in the grieving process. And so some of those reactions are totally normal and can just be processed through in some of the steps that I'm going to tell you next, okay? And with those things that I said about PTSD, it is unlikely that you will experience all of those things. For me, as I was preparing for this podcast, I can look at that, and there are about 3 of them that would show up for me when I was having a PTSD response, okay? Not all of them. So you're probably not going to experience them all, but just pay attention. Did any of those stand out, okay? Now, let's talk about what gets in the way of moving forward that masquerades as grief, okay? Grief in and of itself is a feeling. It's an emotion. If we are telling ourselves stories about how we can never have what we want, how we can never trust our partner again, how we can never trust ourselves again, how we can never have what I dreamed of when we first got together, how it's ruined forever, you are going to feel some things. Now, the things you're going to feel are going to come from the thoughts that you are having, okay? Grief in and of itself is positive. It helps you to move forward. It helps you to heal. When we create grief for ourselves over and over and over again by the stories that we're telling, we're going to keep in those loops until we decide to think something else, okay? We can replay scenarios over and over. We can look at our relationship and tell ourselves the same story over and over and over, okay? This will keep you stuck. It will keep you stuck, okay? Now, here's an example to play with, okay? What if somebody has the thought that's staying? It will never be the same. It will always be a part of our story. Guess what? That is correct. It will always be a part of your story, and it will never be the same. So how do you want to spin that, right? You get to tell the story however you want. You can decide that before the infidelity, there were some dynamics that you were blind to that you just didn't see. You can see where your partner was and some of the decisions that they were making based on what they were dealing with that you could not see. And you can decide what to make it mean. Okay. Infidelity is the thing that sounds the alarm that says our relationship is on fire and urgent care is needed. Okay. It needs urgent care right now, 911. Okay. When we are experiencing infidelity, we are not as much getting sucked into some of the diversions and distractions of life because suddenly this thing becomes front and center. Okay. That can be a really positive thing. It can be something that brings attention to our marriage that nothing else could have. Okay. It might be the thing that ultimately, in the end, saves your marriage, which is hard to believe, right? It's hard to wrap your head around. But what if, like, your relationship being on fire is what is going to bring the needed, desperate attention to it that is going to save your marriage if partners are willing, right? If you're both willing. What if it's just to save you? What if your growth, the growth required through infidelity is so great that it's worth it just for that, whether you stay with your partner or not, that you become such a stronger version of you that's so much more in tune with who you are and what you want out of life that you can even say, I can't imagine that not happening because of how much it has served me in becoming the person that I actually want to be. And even in being in relationships I actually want to be in. Okay. We don't necessarily want crisis to come upon us, but the opportunity for growth is there. And there's so much potential for building something way more solid and long lasting. There is an opportunity, again, if both partners are willing, to become unified in a way that you never were before and at a much deeper level. So how do we actually move through grief in a healthy way? Number one, it begins with self-compassion, recognizing that you're hurting, that it's okay for you to be hurting, and offering yourself compassion in that space is a huge step in really processing grief. Last week, I recorded an episode about self-compassion. So if you haven't listened to it yet, go back and listen to it, okay? This gives you space to allow yourself to feel. Number two, look at it, touch it, feel it. Don't be dismissive of it or put a time limit on it, okay? No time limits. It's going to be different for everybody, okay? Pick it up, hold it, see it, make contact with it, okay? Trying to do this part way will lengthen the process, trying to skip over certain things and not look at them. So back to the story I told at the very beginning about my girl who was 5. She was so brave that day, and she just wanted to go and look straight at it. She literally stood in front of the tree and just looked. I wonder what was going on in her brain. But in the picture that I shared on social media, you can go find it on my Instagram, Andrea_Giles_coaching. I shared this picture of her, and she's just looking. She was willing to move directly into the grief, okay? The thing about walking into the grief, right into the belly of it, is it's only there that you see the doorway out. You have to be willing to walk in to get back out, okay? You can go from the parts that feel really familiar into parts that you might avoid. And this is really crucial. Look at the parts that you avoid. You will come out of it. It's not going to swallow you whole. It will actually introduce to you the doorway, okay? Avoiding this extends our pain. It keeps us in there longer than we need to be, okay? Going straight into it also makes this beautiful doorway for post-traumatic growth, which is a real thing. Go listen to my episode 24. Even if you've already listened to it, go listen to it again. It's with Krista St. Germain. It's all about post-traumatic growth. She is a widow, and she talks about her experience. This is all about growing out of grief and turning it into a beautiful, powerful thing that really is like the jumping off point for the rest of your life. To wrap this up, grief is love's shadow. To grieve means that you loved. To grieve means that you cared. Grief is a price that we pay for love, for relationships, for life. In a way, grief can be a very beautiful thing. So, my friends, this is going to sound like strange advice, but I invite you to grieve. I invite you to go feel it, process it, and let it go. It does not have to be your constant companion, but really going into it deeply will be your way out, okay? Allow it. Open yourself to the beauty that comes from the pain. Don't put a time limit on it. I still, on occasion, will have things that pop up that take me back, that open up a new level of grief, and I have learned to just be open to it. I've learned that I can trust that this must be my body saying, Andrea, it's time for this. It's time for you to look here. And that it will never suck me in, that it will never last forever, and that it actually helps me to move forward. Sending you all so much love as you process your own grief. If you have questions, comments, anything, you can always reach me at andreagiles.com. I love hearing from you. Okay, sending you so much love. I will see you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast. If you would like to be kept in the know about upcoming free classes, new podcast episodes, and other ways of working with me, go subscribe to my weekly email. You can subscribe at andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. Again, it's andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. I will see you next time.